Welcome to Module 2 on Adaptive Behaviour. This week we're going to talk about the magic of the mind. We're going to talk about the power of your brain and your mind. We're going to talk a little bit about the conscious mind and the unconscious mind or subconscious mind, and how to create a healthy mind. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about neuroplasticity, and I'll talk a little bit about the conscious and unconscious mind in a moment. But effectively, what we've been previously told, probably up until maybe the last 10 years or so, is that the brain was pretty hardwired. So you might have heard about things like hardwired, can't change, you get to a certain age and things can't change. So that's what we historically believed from the science that we'd effectively done as a human race, that the brain was hardwired, and most of the research or understanding or theory at that point in time was that was hardwired after that sort of 7 to 14 years. So once you were at that age, it was pretty hard to change things. Now, there are many studies being done right now by neuroscientists, psychiatrists, psychoanalysts, all sorts of researchers, effectively looking at the way our brain works. And I would say we're still pretty early in the journey, right? So I don't think we know everything at all about how plastic our brains are and how much they can change. But there's been some pretty remarkable information in the last few years. Some of you may have heard of Norman Doidge. So he's written a couple of books. He's actually a psychiatrist, psychoanalyst. He's written a couple of books on the brain that can change itself and a couple of others. So feel free to Google him if you're interested in this stuff. There's some really fascinating books. But he has shown through a whole lot of study that's effectively been done that in actual fact we can actually change things in our brain, even when we think they might be hardwired in us as behaviours. So there's some really amazing stories, and I get really excited about this. Some really amazing stories, like a woman that was born with half a brain, and the half brain effectively rewired itself to act as a full brain. People that have had strokes and being able to activate other parts of their brains to do the things that the stroke effectively destroyed. Blind people actually learning to see again, learning disorders being fixed. Even aging brains. There's quite a bit around the aging brain at the moment. I think everyone's quite focused on our aging brains as we tend to age as a population right now. So a lot of focus around how to keep your brain healthy and stop it. But long story short, our brains are a lot more plastic than we thought they were, and we can learn new things. And that's really important for you to understand as a base around adaptive behaviours. So just to get your sense around, actually, you know what? I can change the way things are done. That old adage, you can't teach a dog new tricks, that's just not true. Okay, so we've talked about neuroplasticity, so let me just explain a little bit about the conscious and subconscious mind. And honestly, this could take days and weeks to explain, so I'll try to do it as simply as I can. So effectively, we have these two parts of our minds. The conscious mind is the reasoning part of our mind. It's responsible for logic and reasoning. So if I said to you, could you please add 1 plus 3, it would be the conscious part of your mind that would make that addition and tell me that the answer was 4. So it controls things that you have that real intention around being conscious, and it generally only holds somewhere around that 5 to 7 pieces of information at any one time. Okay, so your subconscious mind or unconscious mind is the part of your mind that's actually responsible for all your involuntary actions. So breathing, heart rate, heartbeats, all of that stuff is actually controlled by your subconscious mind, which is pretty fascinating, right? And the easiest way I have to explain the conscious and subconscious mind is that the conscious mind is a thing that when you're learning a skill the first time, you have to really focus, and it's quite tiring. Like learning to drive a car is a real conscious activity. But now when you drive a car, if you've been doing it for a long time, it's a subconscious activity. So your subconscious mind's effectively taking care of it because it's done it 1,000 times. It knows the way, knows how to drive the car. You don't have to think about it too much. And that's pretty much what happens to us when we learn new things. So we learn them, and it's tiring for us at first as we consciously learn them, and then they become unconscious or subconscious and much easier for us to manage. The fascinating thing about it is that the subconscious mind just holds a wealth of information. In actual fact, different research is starting to indicate, and it's been done over a number of years, that in actual fact all of our memories are effectively stored. So even though we might not consciously be able to remember them, the subconscious memory has got this huge bank of memories that's having an impact on our behaviour on the surface. A little bit like an iceberg model, where the subconscious mind's kind of below the surface, the conscious mind and the thoughts and things you can see people speak, that's what you're seeing, but there's a whole lot of stuff kind of going on underneath. So again, I just want you to conceptually understand that when you're thinking about adaptive behaviors, that quite often what we're trying to do as well is change habits that have actually got into our subconscious mind. So when we're talking about neuroplasticity and things like that, and the need to adapt our behaviors, we're talking about the ability of us to change those patterns in our subconscious mind. Okay, so we've understood that adaptive behavior is something that we need and we're actually really good at already, remember, because we're already doing things differently than we have before. We've talked about the neuroplastic brain, so the ability of our brain to effectively change itself. We've talked about our conscious and our subconscious mind. So then the last thing in terms of bringing it all together that I want you to do this week is actually focus on trying something new. I want you to just do a really simple thing, like maybe go a different way to work, walk a different way, catch a different train perhaps, try a different restaurant, maybe even sit in a different desk if you've got the ability to sit in a different desk. So just try something new, because I'm telling you, you actually do know how to adapt and you can change things. So your first really simple thing to do is try something new this week, learn something new, have fun with it, and we'll see you next week.